Hey, with Title 42 set to expire Thursday night, the surge of illegal migrants to our southern border has already begun. Now, this is a surge on top of a surge. The White House said yesterday that President Joe Biden would veto a possible House GOP bill that limits asylum while building up the border wall, a solution to what's happening at our southern border. But while the political battle plays out in Washington, what is the situation on the ground at the border? What's happening for those that are there, law enforcement, border patrol, and residents? Well, join me now to discuss this and more is Sheriff Mark Dannels. He is the sheriff of Cochise County in Arizona. Sheriff, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thank you, Tony, and thanks for having me.
So tell us what you're currently experiencing there on the border in Arizona.
Well, Tony, it makes more sense if I go back about 2 years, where I was bragging. Probably about 3 years ago, I was bragging we were one of the safest borders in Cochise County. All the proactive things we've done, the measures, programs. As we sit 2 years, 3 years later, this is leads the nation in gotaways. These are people that don't want to be caught. 16 to 20,000 a month come through the Tucson sector, which includes my county. And now we're on the verge of Title 42 going away in 2 days. That's opened up. When you say the surge is here, it's definitely here. We're releasing 400 a day in my community. That's a huge impact. I just got off the phone here just a few minutes ago about trying to get buses to get them out of here. They've already been processed by Border Patrol. It's catch and release, along with the fight and flight stuff. So it's a challenge right now on the backs of all these rural communities.
Well, let me just ask you about the sheriff because I worked at the sheriff's office and back when I was in Louisiana, my home state. You have the duty of protecting the residents, enforcing the local law. How is this impacting your ability to take care of business there in your county, having to deal with this issue on the border?
Well, it's a real challenge. I was at a call Sunday, went out with my guys for a couple hours, where domestics, normal calls, suicide in progress. We were on a suicide in progress, and agencies are calling for backup because they're in a pursuit with a smuggler. They bail out, they're running through the neighborhoods. So 40 to 45% of all the people in my jail right now are border-related crimes. That was 1,600 people almost last year in 2022 for border-related crimes. So you can imagine the impact when you're dealing with border-related issues and crimes throughout your day, when your proactive stuff, reactive stuff is also going on. So it's a
Right.
huge pressure tank. And I have zero, truly, besides Border Patrol, I have zero financial support from the federal government.
So let me, what percentage of your calls that your deputies are getting are related to border issues?
Well, you look at just the border bookings in our jail was 40 to 45%. Before this administration took over, I'm not being mean, was about 5 to 10%. So that's what it breaks down usually for call load is consistent, very relative,
Right.
very consistent.
That,
That's
that
no longer the case anymore.
that's a pretty drastic increase. Now, I was not on the border in Arizona. I've been to the border at Texas, a couple different locations in Texas. During the Trump administration, after the Remain in Mexico policy was put in place, I went before that and after that. And after, it was like a ghost town. Nobody was coming across. It looked like they had stemmed the flow coming across the border. This is if that's what you're experiencing now, what are you anticipating after Title 42 is lifted on Thursday?
Well, that's the unknown. I just sat through a meeting 2 days ago with sheriffs and what they're seeing based on their local border patrol and our local border patrol. There's over 600,000 folks in Mexico right now that are waiting to come across from countries other than Mexico itself. Mexico, there's about a quarter of a million people waiting to come across. This whole thing is just so tilted, Tony. We have gone away from border security, securing this border, to how many can we get through? How can we expedite that to make that better
It
and more enhance that instead of securing the country?
and that only increases the flow when people know that you're just trying to facilitate them coming across the border. That's like a magnet. It attracts more.
You're right on that, Tony. And I've been saying that for 2 years. And the fact that until we change the message from President Biden in Washington, D.C. and Congress and say the border is no longer secured and we have to have consequences for coming across illegally, they're going to keep coming. And
Right.
this is the new normal on our border.
Yeah, it's not just saying it's closed, which the Biden administration has now started to say. You have to actually make it closed and have consequences, as you just said, for crossing the border illegally.
And you're exactly right. And we've been saying that because we're seeing it. And let me just say right now, because the infrastructure of capacity is so fractured right now for CBP, it was 3,500. They're expecting 11,000 on Thursday per day. They can't handle it. That forces automatic catch and release. And that's the worst place you want to be when you're trying to secure a country.
Wow. Wow. Well, Sheriff, I appreciate you taking time to join us. I know you just pulled off the side of the road because you are busy, and we're grateful for the work that you and your men do and ladies do there on the border, as we are of all of our law enforcement across the country. Sheriff, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks for having me. Be safe. Bye bye.
All right.